Alrighty, this is going to be a long and painful one, especially because I ignored the obvious and there were multiple routes available to make a kit function. That being said, let us talk about Magic Bullet Otis. The ID, at least. Aside from her murderous team-killing tendencies, Magic Bullet is what I would consider hyper-premium burn support. Depending on how status-brained you are, she is functionally essential due to Dark Flame. This is a status effect that reduces defense level by its value, and deals burn potency multiplied by its value in pride damage. Functionally, this is a massive 800% multiplier to burn damage, due to also allowing the original burn to take effect. Do note that this additional damage can be amplified or reduced by pride resistance. The mileage may vary. However, for a single status to magnify damage to this extent on its own is rather insane. This gets pretty close to a deluge, but has some caveats on what can successfully apply it. The S1 guarantees a single stack of Dark Flame the following turn, which while nice to functionally double burn damage, it is far from ideal. S2 can apply up to 3 Dark Flame in one go. However, once she reaches 4 Magic Bullet stacks, she no longer applies Dark Flame with her S2, making it apply nothing instead. Essentially, it gets soft capped in a really strange way. S3 on the other hand applies Dark Flame equal to her Magic Bullet stacks. Upon hitting the soft cap of 4 Magic Bullet stacks, you can go beyond it through either using an S3 to stack up one more bullet, or use her defense skill to gain another bullet. This status interacts with the majority of her kits, yes, even her passive. Did you even know she had a functional passive? Well, I did. Weirdly because of Pridwin when I started out, then forgot it even existed for a year, but regardless, yes, it very much exists and can be exceedingly potent when triggered at the right timing. It grants her poise potency up to burn potency before attack, so long as the target has -4 or more defense level down. Considering Dark Flame can trigger it, should be real easy to get going, right? Nope. Tried just casually win raiding or slapping things with her kit, and slapped headfirst into her S2 soft cap without realizing. This passive is hyper specific and has been haunting me for the past 3 days. Couple that with the community's spite for anything that inflicts defense level down, and you get a stupid amount that I'm required to test myself or conduct research upon. Regardless, the payoff we're looking for is twofold. 1. Stack Dark Flame and defense level down to at least 4, as well as 20 burn on her main targets. 2. Have S3 ready to use at 4 to 6 magic bullets. Firing that should hit all targets, inflicting them with Dark Flame for the next turn. This means that for the sake of our team building framework, we're attempting to build something of a functional Magic Bullet Outis Exodia team. To that end, our sub-requirement is going to be burn. Make use of that sweet Dark Flame on the way. The third, really odd dependency we're going to have is the ability to inflict defense down, whether through skills, passives, or support passives. Leaves us with some really weird branches we can opt for. We'll give all 3 a brief overview before selecting one for our basis. 1. Pure Burn. We would be making use of a more classic burn team to stim up the burn potency to the maximum, or using Dark Flame as a nice to have. Staple IDs would be Firefist Gregor, Dawn Office Sinclair, and the Lou Association Fixers. Most of the benefit here lies in being able to stack burn potency hand over fist before Dark Flame eventually turns it into a nuke. 2. Tremor Burn. We covered this one in the last video at the Fun package. The unusual basis here revolves around making use of Regret Force on-field passive, and another unit with Tremor Burst to outspeed Magic Bullet Outis to inflict several stacks of defense down. After which, Outis should then be able to fire a magic bullet into the target that has been set up for the poise stim. Couple that with Shallow Breathing from Force for Calgia, and we have a rather pretty potential style combo. 3. Rupture Burn. This one is unlikely to get going until we get Cockleaf in a week or so. Depending on the nature of his kits, we may be able to fuel Otis's defense level down hungry passive in some surprising ways. Anyhow, in Rupture Burn we'd be looking at a rather unusual tech, by benching both Feng Hunt Hongers and Davat Sinclair. For the time being, we would also be fielding Davat Rodya, capitalize on both aforementioned passives, for defense down. Anyway, for my own sanity, we're going with the Tremor Burn team. Our staples would be the Thumb Duo and Fost, due to both Sinclair and Massault's capacity to inflict multiple Tremor Bursts. This is also coupled with the fact that Massault, given time, can increase his maximum and minimum speed, all but guarantee Tremor Bursts before Otis gets to fire at the target. Past that, we're taking our good boy Firefist Gregor to ensure smooth counts increase for the burn. Here, he's practically essential. Past there, we're going to need Sync East Dawn. Why? Well, aside from the burn, her kit innately provides defense level down as she scales her crits and nerve stacks to inflict them. She'll also eventually outspeed Otis, giving us a backup should the FUM fail to provide needed defense down. This setup is pretty ego resource intensive due to the passives, but with any luck, we should be able to fund them before needing to make use of. Let's address the elephant in the room. Aside from my scruffy as hell voice, I have no bloody clue where this is actually coming from. Anyway, Magic Bullet Outis has both an ID and an ego, and you'd be fooled to forget that. This ego eliminates a vast majority of her problems, including herself, as long as you manage to fuel it. Soft cap on 4 bullets? Nah. Skip it entirely if the resonance is right. Lack of on-demand Dark Flame? Don't even have to wait for the next turn to see it. Did we even mention that this thing has 7 fucking modes, depending on her magic bullet stacks? This bloody thing is insane and completely transforms how we should even approach it. The one guiding limitation, however, is the opportunity cost of the ego resources. 4 pride, 2 lust, and 2 wrath is pretty expensive, and not all too accessible without some major shifts to accommodate for it. Within the 6 on-filled slots we've just filled, we have 6 sources of pride, 7 sources of wrath, and 3 sources of lust, the last of which being mildly troublesome to guarantee. So who are my considerations at this point then? Well, if we want a close to perfect fix for ego resources, we'd be looking at Lou Rodya. He has pride, wrath, and lust, as well as a wrath counter, and does burn too. What if, and hear me out, what if our greed led us to believe in the possibility of Pierce fragility? Let's airdrop in the full stop boys. Why? 1. They can help us fuel pride resources quite well, either through their S3s or by abusing their defensive skills. 2. They offer envy and gloom generation too. This broadens up the kinds of egos we can abuse with them. Notably, I'm staring at 4 Calgia, specifically Force 4 Calgia. 3. We can flexibly start with either just 1 on-field or both on-field, both with solid arguments for their deployment accordingly. 4. Pierce fragility, for the sake of firing harder-hitting magic bullets. Of course, by implementing the full stop package, we are inevitably delaying our game plan by up to 4 turns. This is due to having to expend Heathcliff's ammo to trade him out for Force. Due to how long it would take to amass 6 wrath or even trigger her passive, leaving her off-field while the resources pile up is a solid idea. This, coupled with the need to set up Tremor to even see a Tremor burst come out at all, doubly makes this doable. With our bursters also being the quite Tremor-neutral FUM, count is also the least of our worries. As long as we get the benefits of burst at just the right time, we will be profiting. Now arguably, we could also leave Sinclair off the field, dropping him in as Heathcliff leaves to act as an ammunition. When Sinclair comes in, however, he would most likely be forced to spam his defensive skill or take clashes he can win to boost his SP to workable level. Regardless, he could assist with stimming the game plan with his Tremor bursts once the passives have been racked up accordingly. Finally, is the question of fielding each boy individually on the field. Heathcliff is quite strong from the get-go and shoves out Pierce fragility on quite a few of his skills up front. This could stim up Don and Sinclair's damage early while also powering up any magic bullets we decide to fire early on. However, in fresh fights, we wouldn't have the ego resources or setup required to make Otis's kit work out quite as well, outside of an early Superbia to get things rolling faster. Hongers will come in at lower than desired sanity, making his fight a little more desperate. Hongers also is usually there to make Heathcliff fire bullets more often, rotating him out faster, making this a less attractive option. On the plus side though, Hongers will come in with his passive active most likely, with boosted up skills to take advantage of Heathcliff's retreats. On the other hand, starting with Hongers on the field, we can build up his sanity right away, and begin making use of his passive as resources naturally accrue with Heathcliff in the back. Should anyone kick the bucket and Heathcliff then come in, Heathcliff also returns with a rather ridiculous set of bonuses to soup him up as needed. In comparison, in fights where resources have already been accrued, like MD, having Hongers start with the combo passive active also results in quite a lot of upfront damage as well. With those considerations in mind, we can tailor our use of the full stop package to suit our needs here surprisingly well. Thus, let us cover our supporting cast, our bench warmers for the team. The no-brainer is Lou Rodya. The passive massively stims all shots fired by Magic Bullet Otis's S3, so long as she's in the first slot. When everyone's SP is the same, she'll be the one to benefit. And when everyone's at full and she's just fired a bullet, she'll benefit too. Plus, being able to directly convert burn into more pierce damage is a nice starting point. While our swap shenanigans with the full stop boys could mess with the recipient of this bonus, Otis's SP is going to be a yo-yo while making use of Magic Bullet regardless, either the S3 tanking her sanity or ego use doing so. Next, we'll be looking at Yi-Sung. We've got a few potential IDs that can fill his slot, though to be honest, I'd rather be fielding him than having him as a backliner. With enough gloom, LCB Sinner Yi-Sung can let us manage Otis' sanity loss a bit more comfortably. Anytime we'd lose SP firing magic bullets, we could get back 10 SP through here. While it's nothing too fancy and is a little steep to initially fuel, sometimes simple is best. Spice Bush once again comes up here. However, getting a free res of Sloth when we'd be wanting a lot of other affinities besides Sloth is not ideal. Ring Sang actually has quite a solid support passive, being able to net us back 12 SP should we at least hit twice into a target with 3 debuffs, which is quite easy to do here. Needing 4 Lust resources owned is rather okay. We would just need to keep in mind that we'd be looking to expend Lust to fuel our bullets. But conditionally, he's an upgrade over LCB Yi-Sung, while being a little easier to fuel our composition. Lu-Sung would be the most premium option for healing SP, if it wasn't split between 2 targets while requiring a free res Wrath chain and only healing 5 to 10 SP. We don't have enough IDs that would lose SP outside of the base conditions to justify it. If we were running with the pure burn team, we would instead benefit from his on-field passive, which provides a far greater SP heal on a more Wrath-centric team. If anything, since we're utilizing his support passive, he would rank rather low in priority. An exceedingly funny consideration would be Fell Bullet Yi-Sung. In this particular case, he would literally be Intrusive Thoughts the passive. We'd be flipping a coin whether Otis' sanity is low for a 50-50 shot to shoot her allies, and maybe kill them to boot for a damage up buff, provided she's the slowest on the team. This one, while funny, is a hard pass due strictly to the consistency issues. Best results, I reckon we're picking LCB Yi-Sung and Ring Sang. Since I've got Ring Sang kicking around and we're in the era of chain battles, I'll be slotting him in for those sanity heals. Next is Ishmael. In short, almost all of her IDs are terrible riding the bench. As Ishmael is my favorite sinner, it's a bit painful to be making a video about my least favorite sinner while having to slander her at the same time. That being said, if I could have her fit in more appropriately, I would have given Captain Ishmael the slot on the team. Not just for having the ability to trigger assist attacks, which would be exceedingly useful here, but because her resource generation does also line up quite well here. That added with her capacity for poise and burn as well as bleed would have worked wonders. Alas, she also has the best passive here for riding the bench, Captain's Orders, which is unfortunately also rather shite, but in the right circumstances we may be able to get some poise count on Otis. Stack that with passive's massive poise generation, we could have crits for days. Please be patient while I get together a very extensive video for her down the line. One of my damn favorite IDs, especially with all the resonance tools we have these days. Anyhow, last would be Roshu. We have some interesting options here. First up to bat is another member of the gun team, LCCB Roshu. The shotgun is badass, and Lucky Sig used to interact with magic bullets, from what a mate told me. Anyhow, when Solemn Lament Yi-Sung first came out, several changes were made to the skill that made it less than ideal. If we're taking her, we're stimming everyone else with ammo instead of Otis, so it'll have to be a pass for now. In future, if I decide to make a ridiculous gun team, she's going to be one of the first consideration. Next, we have Maoshu. Yes, the bloody Heisho. Why? If we somehow manage to generate 5 Gluttony, we can almost guarantee that anyone but Otis will be the fastest, and our options for the fastest are quite nice. So long as the +2 haste lands on any of the 4 who can inflict Tremor Burst, or otherwise inflict defense down, we are golden. In addition, if it lands on either Full Stop Boy, they could also provide the most value via their Pierce Fragility. So while Maoshu is a consideration to keep in mind, building up to her usage may be a tad painful to consider. Content where this passive can be fueled, it has the potential to be one of the best we can make use of. As for the most consistent one we can offer, Mage Shoe. This one works on multiple levels, mainly because our aim would be to get this functioning on Sync and Don. By winning clashes, Don would receive more poise count. That poise count then converts to more consistent poise potency buildup. Furthermore, that poise potency then turns into haste. The additional haste granted will also allow Dawn to clash better with coin power, plus getting her skills through more consistently, pumping her poise, applying burn, and also provisioning that sweet defense down we so really needed. When all that haste builds up, we'll eventually be in for Dawn practically being fixed as first. So long as she hits before Otis, we are all but guaranteeing enough defense down. Plus, having Mage Shoe turns Dawn into a consistency machine. Should Dawn manage to receive 3 haste on a given turn, that places her speed range at 7 to 10, whereas Otis should remain at 3 to 7. My math is right, that only leaves us with a statistical 5% chance of having both of them go at the same time. With all that said and done, that's our lineup. There's some unique gimmicks at play here, working overtime behind the scenes to make things work. But otherwise, we've got quite a few unusual synergies to pull everything together. While not quite as well-oiled a machine as the previously proposed Regret Force team, this team makes use of a bunch of real jank stuff that seemingly clicks together to fire a magic bullet that may just slam right back into your team when you're not paying attention. Alright, but how do we get the most mileage out of this setup? Well, there's a few play patterns we can follow. If using Superbia, you can reset until there's enough resonance on the board to max out her magic bullet gain in one go. You'd be looking for a 4 resin with her S3 up next if you're a gambling man. That way, you can loop an ego into an S3, into another ego, provided you generate the right resources. Do note that this has a high likelihood for friendly fire, just out of the reasoning that her sanity is going to drop like a rock. It'll also not do all too much damage outside of MD, when the burn count would have already stacked up. Let's play the slightly longer game. We are looking for 6 Wrath, 4 Lust, and 4 Pride to start. This will activate all the support passives we've been looking out for. While it would be preferable to never fall below these numbers, it will be inevitable as we use Odyssey's Magic Bullet Ego. We want to achieve this over the course of 3 to 4 turns, depending on how long it'll take for Heathcliff to cycle out, during which we will also be wanting to prioritize Pride, as that is most likely to run out first, as we make use of her ego being the highest cost part. While generating resources, we'll want to be looking out for both burn and tremor counts on our target of choice. We'll also be building up magic bullets and adjusting the way we use Otis's ego to map. If we get 2 S2s off with Otis, we'll be sitting at 2 bullets. 3, and we'll be sitting at 3 by the start of turn 3. If we miraculously hit 1 more, we're already at soft cap by the end of turn 3, and can start considering what other ways we can amp things up with. Alternatively, we can use her defensive skill in slots to generate us a bullet as well. This also lets us bypass the soft cap from her ID alone. Regardless, when we have enough ego resources to fire off, we're aiming to hit either 5 or 6 magic bullet stacks. By using the ego, we'll be ramping this up quite fast, due to it giving a magic bullets for every resin up to 4. 5 even if we somehow have 0 bullets and have a 4 chain ready to go. Regardless, do some simple math before firing and we should land at either 5 or 6. If there's an S3 coming up, prioritize trying to land at 5 instead. That way we can fire off the S3 for 6 bullets, and fire the ego off with 6 bullets for massive group damage. Now the trouble is when we want to loop things. At 7 magic bullets, there's a 50-50 shot of her deciding to fire the bullet indiscriminately. It's a quick montage of all the instances I could find in B-roll of her deciding on attempted murder for her teammates. And here's one of my Twitch viewers managing to reset my lobotomy corp day. A violet dawn. If you remember the World PP where Solemn Lament came out, here you go. It's these motherfuckers. Oh, fuck. Unlucky. Nope, fuck. Thanks, Bahamut. Really do aim to please. Regardless, once that 7th bullet has been fired off, we reset to 0, and replay her minigame again. Only when we fire an S3 at 7 stacks do we actually lower the bullets we have. Alternatively, we have the Executioner shots. The 7th bullet on her ego fires at a single target for massive damage. It changes the target's pierce resistance to fatal before firing off the mother of all bullet. This bullet, however, comes right back at Otis, killing her instantly. Now, sans any revival shenanigans, that death is rather permanent, and should really be saved for the final blow against a boss, or to scar the rest of your team for life. I've made use of it on Mayos during my first run through, only to figure out she had a second phase and the damage was nowhere near enough to cheese her through Dark Flame alone. Regardless of the game plan above, an important thing to note is Dark Flame's expiry. It will expire at the end of turn after burning away an ungodly amount of damage depending on burn. All of the ways Magic Bullet applies Dark Flame via her ID will trigger Dark Flame on the following turn. All the ego uses, however, trigger it on the same turn instead. Keep this in mind for when you are planning to stack up burn accordingly. Whether you need to stack it up on the current turn to make full use of the ego's Dark Flame, or the subsequent turn to make use of the ID's Dark Flame. Aside from that, her ego passive does 2 things really nicely. It stims up burn potency if under 30, and allows her base attack skills to apply up to 2 Dark Flame on the current turn. All that said, the last play pattern I desperately need you to learn when making use of her is to never S3 after an ego on the same turn. You are all but guaranteeing a coin flip to shoot your team. You can of course shoot an S3 first, then the ego. Just pray you calculated the targeted skills right and she shouldn't suddenly murder her teammates. Maybe just herself though. That all being said, was all this worth the deck building effort I went through to make it all functional? This time I can only say maybe. Worse still, that maybe might only last a few more days once we see Cockcliffe's kit. Again, thanks for watching a guide, made far too late to be particularly relevant. I'm still in between jobs, so let's see if I can make this whole content creator thing work for a bit. Like and subscribe if you like the video. Once I hit 1k subs, there'll be a special of sorts. The leading option seems to be ASMR of the PM variety. Don't know why there's such a high demand for that, but I'll think of how to handle that once we get there. Who knows? Maybe it's an employee getting promoted by God knows what abnormality. Anyway, do vote by the by. There's still a chance to sway it away from there until we hit 1k. Thanks for watching.